Hello, and welcome to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
Today's episode is going to be about toys we remember from our childhood.
Yes, which are going to give away our ages, I'm afraid.
Well, yes, they're toys from the 1980s/1990s.
Yes.
Some of which you might remember too.
Yeah. Or maybe it'll trigger memories of toys from your
think
childhood
so,
whenever you were a kid.
Yeah, because, I remember some of these toys. I've looked at them up. We're going to talk about ones that we remember and ones that were popular in those years.
But first, there's no escaping it.
There's no escaping it.
COVID-19, the coronavirus.
The coronavirus.
We've mentioned it, I think,
it's a pandemic.
In the last couple of podcasts.
A couple of podcasts, yeah. Since this is all kind of accelerated and
we don't want to spend all our time talking about it because we're not authorities.
We're not authorities on it. We don't know what is happening.
Yeah.
It seems that nobody knows what's happening.
Yeah.
And, until we do...
We just got to take it one day at a time.
Taking it one day at a time, waking up and looking at the news. And if you've been affected by this, then, we're thinking of you.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Our thoughts are definitely with, Italy particularly.
And all those countries that are really very much affected by this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And stay indoors,
and
wash your hands.
And when we say affected, we mean people who know people who have the virus. Because obviously we're all being affected by it.
Well, yes. We're all under lockdown, essentially, aren't we?
Yeah.
Even though it hasn't been ordered here. The UK just a couple of hours ago went into official lockdown.
Yeah, we're recording this on Monday. We have to say that because God knows everything could change by
the
time this goes out tomorrow.
It might all be over tomorrow. Here's hoping.
We could hope, yeah. So stay indoors. There's all kinds of stuff going on the internet.
There's also...
Well, no,
people are like, what's this internet you speak of? Never heard of that before in my entire life. You could be listening to us talking.
They're having virtual gatherings.
Virtual gatherings, like we are.
Yeah. Well, no, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm very handsy when I talk, and sometimes I hit the microphone. No, they're having virtual video gatherings, like dance parties. They're doing exercise classes, teaching classes. Kids are getting together for play dates. They're doing brunches with families or friends. Happy hours.
Just keeping together as a family and people that you know.
Yeah.
It's just designed to stop the spread of this disease. And so people can have a chance to analyze it. The experts can have a chance to analyze it and discover if there's a vaccine for it, and which there will be.
Try to develop a vaccine.
Develop one, yeah.
But anyway, we just wanted to...
you can.
We just wanted to take a second to say that we hope everyone listening is well. We hope you're finding things to keep busy with, and hope you're keeping your attitude
your spirits
positive.
Up with a little song.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't have the guitar on me at the moment. That was just a little
something
for you there. Hope you enjoyed it. That was my Instagram live concert, so beat that, Coldplay and John Legend.
There you go. Anyway,
back to the toys.
Hope you're staying safe. Stay positive. Wash your hands. Stay away from people. Just stay indoors for a while until they figure out what to do next, and everything will be fine.
Let's start the show. Okay. Do you want to go? Have you got a list, or do you want to use my list?
Well, I've got a list of toys.
You've got a list of toys
that were popular when I was a kid. So I just Googled popular toys from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And this list came up, and I am very embarrassed to say that I am a spoiled brat. I was a spoiled brat anyway. It's been a while since I've been spoiled. But yeah, I'm just looking at this list, and I was a very spoiled child, and I'm ashamed to say that, but it wasn't my fault because, no one was forcing me to buy. No one was forced to buy these things for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a lot of the toys on the list, and I'll just go through them. The first one on the list is Cabbage Patch Kids.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know if these came out the year that I was born or if they were just super popular the year that I was born.
I mean, I don't really remember them
I don't know if it was
but...
the year I was born or like my first Christmas or something like that, but I distinctly remember my mom telling me that they were super popular, and she bought me one on the black market because it was like the hot toy that Christmas.
What is this black market? Because this is before the days of eBay and everything. So.
I don't know if this was when I was born or if I was already.
So what? She went to some car park and someone had it in the back of their trunk.
Yeah,
just like, oh, it's around the back. Meet me around the back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, how she found it? Yeah, because like you say, it was before eBay.
Craigslist and all that, you know, people selling it out the back of their cars, you know.
So the stores were all sold out of Cabbage Patch toys and Cabbage Patch Kids, and somehow my mom found one. Somebody in a dark alley going, psst, come here,
psst,
looking for
like a spiv, you know, and they just go like that.
Looking for a Cabbage Patch Kid. Follow me, lady. Selling them out of the trunk of their car.
Patch
I have no idea. I've never asked for all the details. But yeah, so I had a Cabbage Patch Kid. I remember, I don't know if you remember them.
I think the craze was well and truly over by the time I'm sure it was a craze in Britain at some point,
So the story behind them is that they were kids that were born in a Cabbage Patch. Yeah, and you could adopt them.
Yeah.
So you would get an adoption certificate, and they came with a name and all of it. Sort of like Build-A-Bear does, really. You go, and when you build a bear, you adopt it, and then you're given like a certificate, with a certificate of adoption. Yeah. So you got that. I think
Build-A-Bear was a craze as well when it started out.
Yeah, I was already much older then. But they were kind of like, they were essentially like a modern day at the time ragdoll.
Yeah.
Because the body was just cloth body, yarn hair, except they had a little plastic face.
Yeah, I vaguely remember them as a kid, but they were not the popular toy at the moment.
And they had all different looking
Everybody
ones.
had forgotten about them.
And that was the point, you would find one that, whatever.
Yeah.
The next one on this list is My Little Pony toys.
Yeah, I remember them as a kid, yeah.
And I had several of them, too.
My Little Pony was big.
It was a show, I think. That was when I was really little, so I don't remember.
Yeah, totally, it was a show.
I think they had
kind of like Sylvanian Families. That was something in the UK that was like little things,
Yeah. And My Little Ponies were just little plastic horses with like doll hair for the tails
like
and the
Polly
and the
Pockets
manes,
and all that.
and you could comb their hair. They would come with a brush.
Yeah.
And, each one looked different. They were different colors or whatever. The Teddy Ruxpin is another one that was a
Teddy
big
Ruxpin,
toy.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember that being a thing in the UK, but over here you're talking about Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah, he was huge and he was so cute. He was one of my favorites because he was a stuffed bear. Yeah. But he had a cassette player in him, and you would open it up and put his cassette player in. He came with books, and his mouth and his eyes moved. So it was like he was reading you the story, and it would be stories about his adventures as Teddy Ruxpin. And, and he had a little friend called Grubby, I think, and he was kind of like this big, like...
Nobody remembers Grubby. They just remember Teddy Ruxpin.
But yeah, he was super cute. They just came out with them not that long ago. Re-released, that's the word. And they were nowhere near as cute. In fact, they were sort of semi-creepy. The eyes were like LED. Yeah, not as cute. Something else on the list were Care Bears.
I remember Care Bears, yeah.
Okay, Care Bears Stare. No, is it Care Bears Stare or Care Bears Care?
And they had a heart on their thing, and one of them glowed when something... That was
the
a show, too.
The emotions came out, yeah.
Yeah, it was like...
I think it's Care Bears Care or something
Care Bears
like that.
Care, and they all went, ooh, together.
Yeah.
It's like a precursor to the Power Rangers
It was
wasn't
it? Their love would...
It's caring time!
Would get the bad guy, and the bad guy was... And I had them. They were like
The bad guy was COVID-19.
Oh, God. The bad guy was... I can't remember what he was called. He was some kind of ice guy, though.
He was like a hard darkness or something, yeah.
He was like a Mr. Freeze type of guy, yeah.
Mr. Freeze, yeah. I vaguely remember the show, yeah.
And And I had these little figurines, and their arms and legs moved. They were plastic. They were about, like, I don't know, 5 inches, 4 inches tall, something like that.
Yeah.
And I had and they lived in Care-a-Lot, and I had the little Care-a-Lot set that they lived in, and it had a slide, and they had a car made out of clouds and everything, because they lived up in the clouds, yeah. Anybody remember Care Bears? Or is it just me?
Care Bears, yeah, I remember the show. I remember the toys, too. I mean, Polly Pocket, was that another thing that was big over here?
It was big over here. I didn't ever have Polly Pockets, though.
I remember kids having Polly Pockets.
I don't know if I was too old, or if I was just not
got a
into
Polly
them.
Pocket. Because I remember in school, just to go off on a tangent here, I remember in school, you know, in my primary school, the girls all wore these, like, gingham dresses, you know, as like, that was the school uniform. It was like a gingham kind of, like, pattern.
Yeah.
I remember this one girl, Charmaine. She was always getting her Polly Pocket out. It's not a euphemism, by the way. She was getting her Polly Pocket out of her pocket. You know, she was like, my Polly Pocket, oh, my Polly Pocket. Oh.
Yeah.
And she had a meltdown one day because she lost it. And the whole class had to look for it.
Oh my god!
It was like, because they couldn't. My Polly Pocket's gone.
They were so easy to lose.
I wonder if she remembers that. Yeah.
You know, if you ever looked them up on eBay, like everybody has the little set that the Polly Pocket.
Yeah, it was like a little set. And she'd take it to school every day.
But all of them are missing the Polly Pocket that goes inside because they were little, and it's just like they'd fall. Or
I think we found the Polly Pocket that went in, but we never found her set.
Pound Puppies.
Oh, vaguely remember
that was like a fad for a while. I think I had one.
Yeah,
I can't remember really a whole lot about them. I think it was another adoption type thing, you know. There may have been a cartoon that went along with that too. I can't remember. And Popples. I don't know. Totally forgot about my Popple until I saw it on this list.
What is it?
It's like another little stuffed animal thing.
Never happened.
But you could fold them into themselves, and so it would be like a ball. You'd tuck their little tail in and everything.
Yeah.
And they'd be like a ball, and you know, like a little, like a little stuffed animal type material, but in a ball. And then you popped them out, and they were just like that. They were like little animals. I don't know. They were cute. Okay. Yeah, so I'm really only kind of mentioning the ones that I had on this list. Glowworm was another one from when I was very, very little. It was just like a thing to sleep with. It was like a nightlight. His face glowed. Oh. You squeezed him and his face would come on really like just light, just enough light. You know, it wasn't that bright. But he had a super sweet little face also.
He had a super sweet little face.
They have Easy Bake Oven on this list. I didn't have an Easy Bake. Well, I had an Easy Bake Oven. I vaguely remember
people having. Well,
it was my mom's Easy Bake Oven that I had though, so it was not like a new one.
I remember when it was like this is like toddler things. Kids were obsessed with. It wasn't like like this Fisher Price. Fisher Price sets were still big when I was a kid. You know, like Fisher Price. I don't know if you have that over here, Fisher Price.
Fisher Price what? I mean, Fisher Price is a brand.
It's a brand, yeah. It's like Fisher Price, like kitchen sets. Like an actual kitchen.
Like full size?
Full size. It was like full size, it was like a kid set.
Full size for a kid, I mean.
Yeah, and I remember that they were like really popular for a while. And those little cars, and I think they were made by Fisher Price.
Power Wheels.
They were yellow and orange, or red and orange, and you could get in them, but it was like a Flintstones car, you just
moved it with your feet.
Yeah, yeah. Those were like really
little
popular.
Tykes?
Little Tykes,
I think that's what it was, yeah.
Everyone had one of them.
I mean, those are things that are still around now. The kitchens, the kids' play kitchens, those are very elaborate. They have like ones that they don't even look really like cute, like they did when we were kids. They look like an actual kitchen now. Like they have like fake granite.
They're an actual kitchen.
Well, they have like fake granite countertops, and like it looks all like an actual kitchen. It's like that's not fun for a kid to play in. I want it to look all like I'm in a fairy book, and a like fairy tale. You don't want to actually look like a kitchen that you actually buy as an adult. Yes.
So because mother's like, oh, I want that exactly like my kid has a black granite work surface.
I mean, I guess the idea is that kids want, they want to emulate their parents. So
yeah,
it's
but
like,
you emulate too much, you know.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not play then. Just quickly, I'll finish off my list and then you can talk about yours. They have a koosh ball on this list. I don't know if you guys remember the koosh ball.
I vaguely, yes, it was like a hairy thing, wasn't it? It was like, yeah.
Fringy.
Fringy, yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody
they felt really good, and if you threw it at someone, it didn't hurt if it hit them. Etch-a-Sketch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Loved those things.
I could never draw anything
with the knobs and stuff, yeah, you know, just like, oh yeah, I remember
people
I had
could draw really great looking things. I couldn't draw anything.
I was really fascinated with what was in those things.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, I used to be like, how is it drawing this thing? Because it's not like ink or anything and it's erasing it. But it was like mercury or something, wasn't it?
It was like magnetic type thing. It was like a magnet, like little...
It was like a mercury type thing. It was like a liquid. I remember.
They couldn't have put mercury in it.
Oh, they were doing all kinds of things in Britain.
Color Forms is on this list. This is such a weird thing, and I wouldn't have thought like it to be popular enough to have shown up on a list like this, but personally, I freaking loved Color Forms. You don't know what they are? So they're like, you would get a book, let's say, or like, not even a book. Sometimes it would just be a scene, and it would be kind of like plastic-ish type scene on top, and then it would just be like a thing of cardboard or something. And then it had all these little like stickers basically, but they weren't sticky stickers. They were just like decals. And you can move them around on the scene. You can make the scene anything you wanted it to be.
Vaguely. Something similar, yeah.
Oh, God, they were so fun. I don't know why they were so fun.
Something similar, yeah.
I don't know why they were so fun, but they were super fun. Also, Mr. Potato Head is on this list, and I had a Mr. Potato Head. They have Spirograph on here. You know, another thing that they don't have on this list that quite personally I asked for every single year for my birthday and for Christmas. I asked everybody for it for years, and I never got it until I was like old enough to be too old and not want it anymore. I wanted the board game Mall Madness. Like, I was obsessed.
Mall Madness, yeah.
From the time I was like...
Obsessed with malls.
From the time I was like 8 until I was like...
Shame you can't go to them anymore, isn't it?
COVID.
Malls are eliminated.
You had like a little fake credit card thing, and you would put it in the machine and make and you would
talking
buy
about
stuff.
that's not fun to emulate your parents. You were just talking about that now.
It was a board game.
It was a board game, but you had a credit card, and you could go to a mall and buy things.
Yeah.
Well, which is what we're actually going to do now. You know,
got that.
It's like the same as online shopping, really, isn't it?
I thought you meant we were going to go to a mall. It was like, there's no malls are open.
No, the only mall that is open is the board game mall.
Oh my God. Yeah, so I didn't get that until I was like 16, and then I was like, I can just go to the mall now, so I don't want this anymore. But I asked for it from the time I was like 8 until I was like 12 or 13, I think. And then finally I got it for like a birthday when I was like 15 or 16. I was just like, what do I want this anymore?
I always bucked the trends when I was a kid. I mean, you know, as far as board games and stuff went, because I remember I had London's Burning the board game. That was something unique to Britain. I mean, if there's any other British people my age out there that remember London's Burning the board game, and I think it was like based on like series 5 of London's Burning. You know, I had all the firefighters recall and Nick Georgiades Bayleaf, all them, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like a board game. And it was like, as a kid, I was like, how you got this? Because, you know, it was like, how have you got this?
Yeah.
It was like the strangest thing. I remember years later as a kid finding it in our shed, in our garage.
Yeah.
And being like, why did they produce a thing? Because was it really that popular? And, you know, because nowadays you don't really hear so much about it. You know, when I was a teenager even, it was like, it was already lost popularity.
Yeah.
As a show. But yeah, I remember London's Burning the board game and stuff like that. And I can't remember what the objection was.
Only you would have a London's Burning. No,
I was in the London's Burning fan club. I've said this before. I was a big London's Burning fan as a kid.
No, we had a Cheers. I think it was like Cheers Trivial Pursuit or something like that.
They still rerun that.
Yeah,
Cheers,
so, yeah, I mean, I know all about show-based board games.
Yeah. The British toys, though, I remember Scalextrics, Mighty Metro, I loved those. Do you know what Scalextrics are? They were cars that went on, they had like a little like copper kind of like thing and it just went into the track.
No, yeah, you've mentioned
And
Scalextrics before.
you built the track and it was kind of like an electrical current, I guess. It would plug into like a battery pack or something.
Mm-hmm.
And you used like I think they were wired up. I can't remember if they were wired up or they were wireless. I think they were wired up. This was early 90s. You'd press the thing and it would just go around the track. You could build a track as if you wanted, but it would like stay within the like the current of this like thing. It was like a groove in the track.
Yeah.
You had two cars that you put them on and the wheels didn't move, but they were really detailed cars. And it was really cool because, you could just go and you had to, the trick was having the right amount of pressure on it. If you did too fast, the car would just go off the track, know?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like go, whatever, but it was like trying to get it right. And I remember my auntie bought that for me and it was like my big Christmas present. And I was so excited to open it, because I don't think she'd wrapped it when she brought it. She brought it like, it was like about a week before Christmas or something. They came to stay. She goes, I brought you this present, but you're not allowed to have it now. And I was just looking at it like, I really want it. Scalextrics was like the biggest thing of like the late 80s, early 90s in Britain.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we had that over here or not.
You must have had something like it, like I guess maybe, it's just like
I mean,
racing cars.
I do have a brother, but yeah, I don't remember him having anything like that.
Sticker albums. Those were like a big thing.
Which is what?
You collected stickers and put them in an album.
Oh.
People did them for like teen heartthrobs, Kylie Minogue, Jason Donovan. This is like late 80s, early 90s, obviously. But the biggest ones were football stickers, like soccer stickers, soccer teams. Premier League 95, I had almost the full thing. I was like, and shiny stickers of like the teams who were in the Premier League, and you had like the players. Mm-hmm. God, and I got my sister into it, and my sister's like 200 years older than me. So she was like, oh yeah, I bought one and I was really into it too, and I've got have you got that? And we go down the thing and get the packs.
So it's sort of like collecting baseball cards or something like that?
Sort of like that, yeah. And I think it still goes on to this day, but it was like when I was a kid, it was like everybody did it.
Because I had, when I was little, my mom had gotten me a photo album. And I collected stickers like that, but it was not any like teams or anything like that. It was just literally any stickers I got out of like a candy machine or whatever, Anytime I went out, I'd be like, I was obsessed. The more sparkly, glittery, or if they were raised up, like a bit puffy kind of stickers, I thought, those are the best ones.
Premier League 95 was like, like we play that Monopoly game for Randall's, that thing where you stick it and you could have that. It was like all the teams that were in the Premier League, the FA Premier League, which is the soccer Premier League in Britain. I don't know if it's called that anymore, the Premier League. And it would be like all the players who were in that one team, say like Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, West Ham, whoever was in. This was 1995, so they're probably not. Some of them are probably not in the Premier League anymore. And it was all the players who were then, it was just, you could stick them in, you could, you go down the newsagents or the thing and you ask for a pack of them and it would be like a random assortment.
Yeah.
And I remember I completed most of it, and the shiny was like the glittery iridescent logo of the team that you could place in the middle, or maybe it was at the front or something. But I was so into doing it. I was so into collecting them and putting them all. It was like an OCD thing. And I got my sister into it. And, I can't remember whatever happened to that annual too. It was like a book of all the Premier, it was just like a big like thing. It was just, it's going back then. That was when I was into soccer, everyone. I'm still sort a little bit into it. I still follow it sometimes, but then music got me and everything. So. But anyway, moving along, the Game Boy. When I was living in Scotland, I got a Game Boy, and everybody wanted to play it. It was like I'd just gone back in time. It was like everybody was like, "Oh, give us a go to your Game Boy." And so I was just, it was like Mario and... Oh, no, it wasn't Mario. It was Tetris.
Oh, yeah.
And there was another game, too. I can't remember what it was. You must have had a Game Boy.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. I didn't. My brother had one.
Tetris was the big one, and it had like...
Super Mario Brothers 3 is what I played.
And it was much bigger than, for kids who might be listening. It was much bigger than an iPhone. It was like, it was bulky, and you had a cartridge to put in and everything. I had like no, it wasn't Sonic. It was some kind
not
of game.
Not on the Game Boy.
Not on the Game Boy. And was like Sega, but Game Boys were like. That was another thing that I was obsessed with.
Yeah. Well,
Tetris was the one I really remember, but there was another one too.
It's so funny. I think it would be really funny for kids nowadays,
to play a Game Boy.
No, to listen to us talk about, oh yeah, I had the Nintendo or I had a Game Boy or whatever, but I only had like 2 games for it. They would not understand that at all.
No,
but
because
games back then, individual games were super expensive.
They were,
and I didn't know anybody who had loads and loads of games for any of the gaming consoles that they had. Yeah,
cartridges. It was like those tiny things, come in and you slot it in the back. But and that was only like 2-bit.
You would find
graphics were like
We'll have to do a separate. We'll have to do maybe a separate podcast on just talking about
the evolution of gaming.
Yeah, of gaming, because you would find friends that, oh, what games do you have? It's like, oh no, you only have the same ones I have. It's just like, yeah. And then you would hear about somebody at school would be like, I have all these games, and it would be like, do they really?
Do they really? Yeah, you don't have GoldenEye. Yeah. You talking about? I only have GoldenEye. This is Nintendo 64 when I was getting a bit older. But
the Game Boy
was like late 80s, early 90s.
You could bring it in the car. You weren't tethered to the television anymore.
It was great.
Like, yeah.
Because I remember a friend of mine had a Sega Mega Drive.
Oh, yeah.
And he had Sonic, and everybody was playing Sonic.
Yeah.
Crazily, but I was playing the Game Boy. I was always a Nintendo. I was always like branded, like you say, like, oh, you were really into Pepsi.
Yeah.
And didn't really drink. I did kind of like favor a brand over others. I drank Pepsi, and I played Nintendo, and my friends drank Coke and played Sega. The next one, Koosh Ball, as we talked about.
Koosh Ball, yeah.
Talk Boy.
Oh, yeah, that was big over here, too.
Talk Boy,
my brother had one of those.
I mean, that was made, immortalized in Home Alone 2, Credit card, you got it.
And it was just that much fun, too. It was like as much fun as you thought it would be.
It was, yeah.
And that was...
They had a Talk Girl. Do you remember the Talk Girl?
Did they? No,
yeah, it was a couple of years later they brought that out. It was a pink, like, iridescent one. And because, people were like, oh, I've got to have a Talk Girl as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it did anything different to the Talk Boy, because the Talk Boy was silver and it had a little tape in it, but yeah.
And it would record you or you could play it slowed down, or you could play it like
speed it
up, and you'd sound like the Chipmunks, know. Yeah. That was great. And of course you had to record the credit card. You got it.
Yes. That was brilliant.
Apparently those are worth like a fortune if you still have one.
Oh God, I don't know what happened to mine. I had one in the mid-90s, and I was like on the tail end of it, but then I started getting into like, I was always into recording my voice, it was like, that's one of the things. I was all into recording.
Same, huh?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Imagine
what
that. We're recording.
Now?
Hello. We're here broadcasting to you live from 2020. Another thing was Pogs.
Oh yeah, I was already way too old for that, but my brother was into that too.
Pogs were huge. Pogs, which were like, it's like a game where you like, it evolved from like an early 80s game where
it was like
they used bottle
Pokemon.
It was kind of like you collected them and you played the game and you had like this heavier Pog.
Oh no, Pokemon! I'm thinking of Pokemon cards, right? Did they have that, or were they
Pokemon cards was kind of like what I was like an evolution of the Premier League '95 stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody wanted like a
Pogs, but didn't you trade them?
You traded them, yeah. 1995, apparently they were like big. 96, and I remember having one, but I was never really into them.
Oh yeah.
But my brother, funnily enough, asked me when I saw him. He goes, "Oh, you're into Pogs? I was into Pogs as a kid because it was a bottle cap game."
Oh.
And then it kind of, they reintroduced it in the early 90s and it took off again. And then they just kind of went, you know.
I mean, like, they still do that. No, I'm just noticing on your American toys list a few more that I didn't mention. The Magic 8 Ball. Yeah.
Vaguely remember it. I don't remember. I vaguely remember. I'm having a memory of a friend being into it. So, I got my Magic 8 Ball. And
you must have had those in Britain.
Yeah, we must have had them, yeah, but I don't remember being into it or having one and going, my Magic 8 Ball. I meant maybe a girl. I think it was a girl who had one and she was like, it told the future or something.
Yeah, you'd ask a question, does so-and-so like me? Yeah. And then you turn it over and the answer was always try again later.
And they're still trying again later.
You never ever got like yes or no. It was always like maybe try again later or something like that. It's just like, oh god, so annoying.
30 years later.
The pogo ball you have on. Do you remember that? Did they have that in Britain?
Is that like a pogo
It's
stick?
like, so the pogo stick was a stick and you stood on that and jumped, and that was like from the 50s or something.
Yes.
And then the pogo ball was a
bouncy ball,
and it had like a platform around the edges of it. And you stood
I remember that thing.
Yeah, it was like a cracked skull waiting to happen. Nobody could stay on
It was like an evolution of it was like they melded the pogo stick and the space hopper. That was a 1970s
I didn't know what that is.
Space hopper was really big. It was just like a giant medicine ball with like handles, and people bounced in it. And it was apparently in Britain,
you
it was
sat
like
on it.
You sat on it, and you just bounced it, around. And that was basically what a space, like a pogo ball was.
I never had a pogo ball.
On a pogo stick and you just went on it. Yeah.
I never had a pogo ball, but I can't remember whether we had them at school, like, in PE or something like that, or if I had a friend that, because I remember doing it. The trick was to squeeze the ball between your feet, and then that would give you a little bit more, like, assurance that you weren't going to fly off of it.
Yeah, the space hoppers were like, it was like, that's something everybody had them in the 70s.
And then the Rainbow Bright doll is your last thing on that list, and I had one of those. I think that was a cartoon also, and again, she was sort of like in the same vein of the Cabbage Patch doll, only much smaller. She was like a rag doll with yarn hair and a plastic face. Super cute though, all like colorful and rainbowy.
I vaguely remember them.
Yeah, she was good.
But anyway,
we gotta wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
We're way over time here, so but thanks for listening. As always, we appreciate your support as ever. Be sure you go back and listen to our podcast if you find yourself needing something to do.
Since you're all quarantined now.
Yeah.
By order.
We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys listening to us as always. If you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify,
give us a review.
Yeah, give us a rating, give us a review. And you can always send us a DM that you have done that on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Send us like a screenshot of the review that you left us just to let us know that you have done that. And we will be so happy that we will love to give you a shout out in an upcoming podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, so
thanks a lot, everybody.
Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.